My name is Jerry Turcotte. I'm the president of Corpus Christi and the principal of St. Mark's College, and I'm delighted to welcome all of you to this exciting event featuring the remarkable Christopher Gaze, a community builder extraordinaire and the founder, as many of you know, of Vancouver's Bar on the Beach. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the territories, the ancestral territories of the Coast Salish people, in particular the Musqueam peoples, and we thank them for allowing us to work and study and be creative on these lands. The Changemakers series is one of the most prestigious programs that we run here at Corpus Christi and St. Mark's Colleges, and it has featured many of this province's most prominent voices, including recently John Montalbano, Fiona Dalton, Tom Cooper, and Frank Giustra. Our guest of honor today probably needs no introduction, but then I would have no role to play, so I will introduce him. Dr. Christopher Gaze is a celebrated actor, director, founding artistic director of Bar on the Beach, an event that has regularly hosted hundreds of thousands of people. He's the host of Vancouver Symphony's popular Tea and Trumpets series and their annual Christmas concerts. His many honors include induction into the BC Entertainment Hall of Fame, Canada's Meritorious Service Medal, Honorary Doctorates from UBC and SFU, the two small universities that compete with us for students, the BC Community Achievement Award, the Gold Medallion from the Children's Theatre Foundation of America, and a Jessie Award for Best Supporting Actor for his performance in Equus at the Playhouse. As an Olympic ambassador, Dr. Gaze was honored to run with the Olympic flame for the 2000 Games. All of this is pretty impressive, but the detail that my daughter thought was coolest is that he also narrated season 3 of the Emmy Award-winning animation series Madeline after Christopher Plummer stepped down. Dr. Gaze was awarded the Order of British Columbia and the Civil Meritorious Service Medal from the Canadian government in 2005, so no doubt being here today at Corpus Christi will rank up there as one of the greatest moments of his life. We have asked Dr. Gaze to set the scene, as it were, with some opening remarks. And then our own Dr. Judith Scholes, Professor of English, will take to the stage with him for a brief Q&A. And she will be teaching a course on Bar on the Beach as well. So we're creating a partnership with Bar on the Beach that may well involve the people here. So until that happens, I would ask you to join me in welcoming our guest of honor today.
Thank you. Just press the button there, and it works. Well, hello everyone. Thank you, Jerry. It's wonderful, really. It's a pleasure, such a pleasure to be here, and an honor that you all showed up to find out a bit more about my life and how we've pushed on and made Bard what it is today and how we've survived. This is year 35. Bard was something that I dreamed about. I gather I met someone last summer, the summer before. I sat down and chatted with just before the show. I'd known them a long time ago in the late 70s. I was at a theatre in Edmonton as an actor, which I was in those days, just an actor. And she said, "You've been talking about this back in the 70s, which I'd sort of forgotten about. But I guess I had a dream. And I always knew or felt, and I think it's important for those of you that are younger here today, that these dreams and passions you might have, never forget them. Sometimes they can get clouded and pushed aside, but you may want to return to them one day, and you can build on them, and you can be successful at whatever level you want to be at. And for someone like myself, who is, I was the son of a businessman. There was a family company, W.H. Gaze and Sons, which was a building company by appointment to Her Majesty the Queen, I might add, which was a brand you could stick on beside your own brand, because the company had done work for the royal family a while ago. I remember going over the Canby Bridge with my father in 1987, and he died the following year. But I remember going over the bridge. I was going to do a show downtown Vancouver in the old Arts Club, which used to be on Seymour and Davie. And I said to him, "You must be very disappointed in me, Dad." And he said, "Why is that?" Gazy, he used to call me Gazy. And I said, "Well, you know, I'm just an actor, itinerant, here, there, contract. And he said, "No." He said, "Look at your life. Look at what you're doing." He said, "I was born in 1920. 1939, there was a war. And he joined it. Of course he did. He had to. Englishman had to. And so he came out of the war in 45, survived it. All he wanted to do was live a normal life. Meet someone, have children, have a home, and have a job." And he said, "So I went into the family firm." He said, you can do whatever you want." And that's why we fought the war. So it's that's a big part of why I stuck to it. And more than that, I'll just finish with my father and we'll go on to other things. I said to my mother when I was about 24 or something, "I'll never work in an office. I'll the stage and this and that, you know." And that's nice, darling, good. And but for the last 35 years, I've worked in an office. I mean, yes, I've been on the stage and that kind of thing, but I don't really, I'm not on the bar stage really anymore. I get up there and I introduce plays and that sort of thing. I have a public position to play out, but not in the plays. But for years and years, I sat behind a desk and built bard. And that's the business of being an actor. And I'm a sort of hybrid, probably a bit unusual, probably a bit of a throwback. There used to be things called actor managers. Someone, say like myself, say I built some wealth, I'd employ a company of actors and take them and we could play all over England or Canada or wherever, America, wherever we lived. And it would be the Christopher Gaze Theatre Company. And I'd pay for it, and assuming we made some money, that's my money. So and that's a business you're running, putting on shows and advertising them, collecting the money, and making it live. Now, I don't do that anymore. Barn on the Beach belongs to you. It's a not-for-profit society, registered charity in the province of British Columbia. I'm employed by the board of directors, and that's the way I make my living. But the business perspective, sometimes the executive director, Claire Sakaki, was the most superb administrator, the best arts administrator I've ever met in this country, or anywhere. And so I'm very, very lucky to work with this dynamic woman. Very often, she's so interested in the art, in what we do, that sometimes I find myself talking at cross purposes with her. I'm saying, "We can't afford that. I mean, why would we hire the extra actors?" But we have to, Christopher. It's plays we're putting on. So she's talking about the art and I'm talking about the business. And so it's good. It's a good balance. Anyway, I'm going to I'll do a little thing for you. Just then you have a context for my life, and then we'll have some questions. When I was a lad in boarding school, I worked very hard, breaking every rule. They sat me down from 9 to 3 and tried to teach me some geometry. Geometry was not my bed. Now I'm an actor in a Shakespeare tent. The family business came along. It was building all day long. The concrete business did me in. I'm much too artsy for the dust and din. I had my fill of wet cement. Now I'm an actor in a Shakespeare tent. Before I learned to tread the boards, I spent a season in the House of Lords. I stood my ground, I had my say, and I quoted Hamlet almost every day. My speeches were so eloquent that now I'm an actor in a Shakespeare tent. My father said, "Go west, my son," so I spent a year or two in Edmonton. Whilst there I taught an acting class, and in the winter nearly froze my ass, so I bid adieu and west I went. Now I'm an actor in a Shakespeare tent. At last I think I've found my home, acting at bard underneath a canvas dome. Although it's rich I'll never get by playing Romeo and Juliet. As long as I can pay the rent, I'll always be an actor in a Shakespeare tent.
Hi, can you hear me? Is this on?
Yes.
How do I turn it up?
I do. Hello, hello.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
It's on, it just, oh, there we go. We got it. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask a couple questions to start us off, but I also want to invite any of you to, as you know, we do in the classroom, just let me know when you have a question. Yours are probably more interesting than mine at this point, so I'd love this to be a bigger conversation, but I have reams of questions to ask him, so I can fill in the blanks. But I do want to start with, you just talked about being an actor at a Shakespeare tent, so I'm going to start with a tent. This is a repertory theater, and you have a long history with repertory theater. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that kind of theater is like and why it's unique?
Yeah, repertory theatre is, if you were cast at Bard and Beach this year, you'd have to be in both plays. So let's say on our main stage we're doing Twelfth Night in Hamlet. Well, you play a part in Twelfth Night and you play a part in Hamlet. And tonight, Monday night, actually, we have the night off, so we'll all go out and have a good time, or be with our families, or whatever you want to do on a Monday night. Tuesday is Hamlet, so you all show up and you're in Hamlet. Wednesday, actually we do Hamlet again on Wednesday. Thursday, we do Twelfth Night. And Thursday, Friday, maybe 2 Twelfth Nights on Saturday, and perhaps 2 on Sunday. It's hard work. And that's what repertory theatre is. You're in more than one play at the same time. And it's a combination that works really well. Just one short anecdote. When we opened our smaller theatre, we call it the HFS, the Howard Family Stage, in the Douglas Campbell Theatre. He was a big influence of mine, but more of that later. Howard Family Stage is the kind family that sponsors that theatre. If you think you'd like to sponsor one of our theatres, talk to me afterwards. But anyway, in 2004 was the last time we did one play in that theatre. Why? Because it was the Scottish play, or Makers, as sometimes called it. And I think you probably all know what I'm talking about. It's unlucky to mention the name, so I'll leave that. Anyway, we were doing Makers, and about halfway through the season, I got word from the stage manager that the people playing Lord and Lady Mac loathed each other and were having a very, very bad time. So I had to go there and talk to them. And Anyway, bottom line is we got through the season. Wasn't easy. But then I said to the board, we have to afford 2 plays now. To do that play, I'm going to say the word, Macbeth, 92 times, show after show after show, over 4 months, is bad for people's mental health, the people that are in it. All you're talking about is killing, murder, children, kings. It's just shocking, running around with heads and things. And so the board agreed, and since that time, we've done it in repertory with another play. So an actor may be playing Macduff, 3 nights a week, but the other 5, he or she's in a comedy or something like that. It's just better. Enough of that.
Why did you come to Vancouver to do that kind of theatre?
Why did I come to Vancouver to do that? I came to Canada in 1975. I was 23 years old. I'm 71 now. There's a maths going on. But anyway, I came to Canada in 75, and I never saw the tents at Stratford. In Stratford, in Ontario, there's the biggest theatre festival in North America. Canada bigger, much bigger. And it doesn't often happen, as you well know, but that's what it is. It's the most extraordinary phenomenon in Stratford, Ontario. 3 or 4 theatres there, and hundreds of thousands of people come every year to see their shows. That started in 1953 in tents, from 53 to 57. Then they built their theatre, and there they go. So my influence through my mentor, Douglas Campbell, whose inspiration to push me to Canada, he said, go to Canada. Anyway, again, more stories in behind, was he had been there in 53 with Sir Alec Guinness and Dame Irene Worth and Sir Tyrone Guthrie, all the greats of the British theatre back 70 years ago. And they started in tents. And so, as my career went on, I was in Edmonton, I said in my little doggerel, and the company that I was working for there, the theatre company, did put up a tent, and we played Shakespeare there. And it was all rudimentary, people sat on the ground, it was a hillside, Condas Hill. But as the light went down, the back of the tent was open. And so, Edmonton doesn't win a lot of prizes for beauty. I mean, the river valley is pretty and all that, but it is what it is. And but as the sun went down, the lights of the city came on, and so the backdrop, to imagine behind me, was the lights and the night, and it was beautiful. That didn't last more than 2 years for various reasons. I think financially it was just too ambitious. They didn't build their audience, they didn't sustain an audience. They started to do more experimental theatre in the 2nd year. Not good for business. Anyway, I came to live in Vancouver in '83. As I arrived, the phone rang and they started a Shakespeare Festival in Vancouver, 1983, Banyan Park, where we are now, Sonok. And so they invited me to be in that company. I was, a trained young actor and leading roles and all that. So I did that in '83 and '84. They did the same thing. They made, in my view, the same mistake. They expanded too quickly before they really got an audience in '84, and they gave us 2 weeks and told us to go home about halfway through the season. I was playing Richard III at the time. I don't think it was because of my performance, but it may have been. But anyway, that was that. And so as the '80s wore on, '84, '85, '86, '87, I had always believed that I had something in me, as I think I said. And as Douglas Campbell told me, you're going to do something. So I felt I had some sort of mission in life, which was hard to, what is it? What am I going to do? And, but I found it. And so that's why in 1989 I said to a group of people that I was directing in a play, I've got an idea and I'd like you to help me if you will. And I told them what it was and they said yes, 35 years ago.
And still in tents.
And it was putting up tents and the, thanks, that's good. It was to put up tents in Vanier Park. It was to build it organically and slowly. Key, that's key. And to open the back. I didn't say that in Edmonton the back was open. In Vancouver, when I did that festival here, the tent was closed. I said, no, we got something to look at in Vancouver. Open the back, sea, mountains, sun going down, ships going by. Marvelous. That was the difference.
When I first came to Vancouver, I saw the Scottish play.
Oh, did you?
I did. And with the back open. And it was absolutely amazing because it was a storm outside. And I thought, you can't possibly have this in a closed theater. It was amazing.
Yeah, and sometimes the weather and nature goes with us and it enhances the experience. I actually think if Shakespeare was sitting over here today, he died in 1616, but if he was sitting here, I think he'd say, well done. He said, I think you have a better theatre than the one we had, which is the Globe Theatre in London, which they rebuilt about 30 years ago. After it's the first thatched building for 400 years or something in London. Of course, they've got water sprinklers, and, that kind of thing. But our show can go on. You don't stand there and get wet. If you go to the Globe Theatre now and it rains, you get wet unless you pay for an expensive seat. Yeah.
Any questions arising before I jump back in here?
Yeah, anything you want to know, just ask away. No stupid questions. It's all good. Ask whatever you like. Oh,
Yes.
When did you start doing the comedies with lots of music parts?
Well, I'm trying to think. Shakespeare, in the comedies in particular, like the one we're doing this year, 12th Night, has a lot of, I say music in it. It's song, when that I was a little tiny boy with a hay over the wind and rain. So Shakespeare wrote that all those 400 plus years ago. But thousands of people have put music to those words over the centuries. So people love music. Words and music is just a wonderful blend. We started, we did a production of The Merry Wives of Windsor, I don't know, a dozen or so years ago. And the director came up with a wonderful idea of putting it in a legion, and it was, anyone could play or sing that night. And so that's the way that production was conceived, and it was very, very clever. I had an idea for years and years. I'm going to tell you about the big success that we've had with our As You Like It, which I think you may be referring to, and some of you may have seen this past year or in 2018. We took the play. I had the idea of putting Beatles music to As You Like It, Shakespeare's play As You Like It, and I said, I was a director that I thought we'd do this very, very well. He's the artistic director now of the Citadel in Edmonton, and he has done very well. I said, here's the idea. Orlando is under threat. He meets Rosalind at the top of As You Like It. He meets her. They obviously fall for each other like that. But there's a death threat on his life. Initially, he meets her and sings, I Want to Hold Your Hand, which is one of the great Shakespeare songs. You happen to One of the great Beatles songs. But anyway, if you haven't never heard I Want to Hold Your Hand, play it tonight, and you'll understand what happened in 1963, 64, when the Beatles hit the world. And then he has to run because there's a death threat, and he sings Help. I need somebody, help, not just anybody, you know. And then he gets into the forest, and he meets Changemakers, and perhaps he sings, "He's a real nowhere man." We didn't actually do that one, but Changemakers sang "The Fool on the Hill," and songs like this. And of course, the production ends when everyone meets and it's all perfect, live happily ever after. All you need is love. And this show has been a massive success for us. We did it in 2018. I think if there hadn't have been a pandemic, I think the production actually would have gone to Broadway. It may still. I mean, that wasn't the idea, but it was just monstrously successful. You put in an extra performance, and everyone's like, "Would you think it'll sell out?" 36 hours, gone. Almost like a Taylor Swift concert. And so that was 18. And then we had a pandemic. Meanwhile, it had played Winnipeg and Edmonton, our production, our people, our set, costumes, props. And then, just as the pandemic was easing out, it played Chicago, Milwaukee. I went down to Washington, D.C. on the New Year. It played their most successful production they've ever had at the Shakespeare Theatre in the American capital. I'm going on Friday to see it open in Calgary, and then it goes on to Theatre London, not in London, on London, Ontario, and on it goes. So it's just a marvelous combination, words and music. Bramwell Tovey, Maestro Tovey, who died almost 2 years ago, a very good friend of mine. But I hosted his concert, recognized his celebration of life, if you like, at the Orpheum. And Bram used to say, as any music person would who understands words of music, is where the words finish and you can say no more. You've said it all. That's where music takes over and amplifies feelings and emotion and makes it beyond words.
Thank you.
Long answer, but it's been a marvelous success for us. And I don't think we made enough of it, actually. If you were all journalists, I'd say, go out and write a story. And because exporting art is difficult.
This modernization of Shakespeare, you've been doing it for a while. There's lots of films that have been modernizing Shakespeare. What do you think Shakespeare would have thought about that?
I think Shakespeare would have been up for all this adaptation, call it modernization, of his works, because it makes them relevant again. It is extraordinary, and then in my career you think, well, I started 35 years ago in the creation of Bard. I mean, I was an actor for years before that, but I used to, if you look back at the AGM reports, the annual general meeting reports of Bard in the 90s, you'd actually see, the artistic director's report, mine. You'll never see people with leather jackets and motorbikes on our stage, which is absolute nonsense now, because we've done it all. It's the relative, but it was our success initially, because that's the way the world was. They wanted this sense of tradition. People in 17th century costumes and so on. People wanted that. Now, I'm not saying that people don't want it now. Yes, they do want it, but but we need somehow to adapt these plays to make them relevant. Now, practically every play we do is adapted in some fashion, certainly cut. I mean, I heard Sir Peter Hall, who was the huge mainstay of world of British theatre for a generation. He's gone now, but I heard him say in the lecture, who do you think you are to cut Shakespeare? Who would cut Mozart, he said. Of course, all that is, at the time I thought, ooh, no, better be very careful now. Well, we change words now, we do everything to make it look more relevant, so people can understand. So it doesn't seem like a foreign language, that it doesn't distance people, because it's complicated. It's 17th century, it's all written in between 1590-ish and 1612. That's a long time ago, and words were different. Words were different. All the world's a stage. Here's something, that's really easy to hold on to. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. Then it goes, first the infant, mewling and puking in his nurse's arms. Now this is all very understandable Shakespeare. This is accessible Shakespeare. And I always think, well, it sounds a bit arrogant, I suppose, but I'll go there. If you don't understand that, then you will have a tough time with the rest of Shakespeare. But this is Shakespeare at his clearest. At first the infant, mewling and puking in his nurse's arms. And then the whining schoolboy, with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like a snail unwillingly to school. And then the lover, sighing like a furnace, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress' eyebrow. And then a soldier, full of strange oaths, and bearded like the park, jealous in honour, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation, even in the cannon's mouth. Then the justice, in fair round belly, with good capon lined, with eyes severe, and beard of formal cut, full of wise sayings and modern instances, and so he plays his part. And so the piece goes on. And this is Shakespeare at his best. And people know that speech because it's enormously understandable. But you have to adapt Shakespeare to make it relevant these days. And I'm not afraid of that anymore. We have experts who work with us and do it, make it happen. This cut of Hamlet is a really, really good cut. It's a 4-hour play, but we'll bring it in 2.5. And it'll be clear, and the best parts will be in it. And don't be late, because to be or not to be in our production opens the play. So if you come in late, you'll be saying, where's to be or not to be? Well, sorry, we're late. But that's adapting Shakespeare and making it work for a modern audience.
How do you negotiate the balance between adapting it to keep it relevant, but also staying true to the original text?
It's a delicate balance. It is a delicate balance. I'll tell you, here's a balancing point. We're doing 4 Shakespeares this year. Most often there's another play in there that's not Shakespeare. That's what we like to do. But somehow we ended up with 4 Shakespeares this year. And Measure for Measure is one of those plays. Now, Measure is complicated. I appreciate most of you don't know it, and I'm not going to describe it to you, except this, that it's about power and control from an individual. We see this in the world, or we have seen it all the time. And the Duke leaves, but he puts someone else in charge, a much more severe person than he is. He leaves, we never find out why, but he leaves. But I'm coming back, he says, but he leaves. So someone else is in charge, Angelo. Angelo, in comes a nun, Isabella, and says, look, my brother has done something, I know it's terrible, but he and his girlfriend, she's with child. And in this state of this play is set in, is if that happens before marriage, punishment is execution, death. So her brother will be executed. And she says to Angela, please, you have to see reason here, understanding, you have the power and control to change this. But anyway, he says, well, I can't do anything about it, but come and see me again. And she comes to see him again, and you know why. Because he's taken a shine to her. And he says, well, this can all be sorted, but you know what? And she says, no. And so that's the play. And it goes on, and good things happen finally. Shakespeare classified this actually as a comedy. Academics in these later years call it a problem comedy. But we saw this, and it's very, very hard. How do you put this play on, therefore? If you're going to do a modern production, she's just going to grab her cell phone and go, ding, 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 and the whole world now knows what just happened. So, how do you do a traditional production and just risk it? Because people don't like to see that kind of thing. You can have people, audience can fight back on that. What we're doing, the director came up with a marvelous idea. He said, let's do it like, there's a film called Footloose, which I've seen, and you could watch Footloose, where it's illegal to dance. So what we've changed this play into an absurd play, it'll be funny, I think, because it's funny and odd, because this situation has happened, in she comes, tells him, and he says, well, come back. And then he wants to dance. And you beast, you're a terrible person. So we'll see how all this works. But I think it'll be interesting. But it's difficult to know the balance. Next year we want to do a play, a leading play, much more traditionally, because people like it. I like it.
Thank you very much. And I wondered if you could comment on any differences you've noticed between audiences in Vancouver and maybe audiences in Stratford-on-Avon or London when you go to see a Shakespeare production in the last few months.
Yeah, I don't think it's wildly different. I guess you could say in London or in Stratford, England, Warwickshire, you could say that, I don't know, I'm not going to say they're more sophisticated because they've seen more plays. I don't see a difference, to be honest with you. Bard has an audience of 100,000 people. We're fighting back for the 100,000. We all have to live through the end of the pandemic. It's affected every organization, every level of society. The arts in particular, music, art galleries, opera companies, theatre companies, to try to get people back who got out of their habit, especially older people. It's just, they sat in front of the telly for 2 years or read books or something, but they didn't have to go out and buy dinner and have somebody look after the dog and buy tickets and find parking and all the rest of it. It's just stay home. And I don't think, for some people streaming works, watching stage plays on your computer or TV, doesn't work for me, but some people like it. Not that many. It's not a way to go, in my view. But just to sort of embellish your question a bit, the diversity of the audience is interesting. And Bard's audience actually, I think, is a much more healthy diversity than many others. Because our experience, the experience of coming to Bard is not only to see a play done well, high level is very good, but this indoor-outdoor experience to meet your boyfriend, girlfriend, aunt, uncle, children, come with someone you love, whatever it is. There's time, an hour beforehand, to hang out, to have a picnic, to have a drink, and you're outside, beautiful summer's evening, or huddled under the tents because it's raining, It's an experience, and I think that set us apart from many, many other arts organizations. And it's fresh air, by the way. Yeah. Yes?
What is your favorite role in your acting career?
Favorite role in my acting career? Well, I liked playing, I played quite a lot. I played Richard III a couple of times, and I played King Lear, and these are all, you know, mighty parts. I played Falstaff. I enjoyed Falstaff a lot. But my favorite role in Midsummer Night's Dream is, I played two roles over the years. One was Nick Bottom, and the other is Puck. Now, those are great, great parts. Great parts. Bottom because he's a big show-offer. I'm a bit that way. And I love getting out of the audience and sitting on people's laps and shocking them and all that kind of thing. And Puck because I have inside me, and I know I do, and somebody remarked on it the other day, a mischievous sort of quality, which I've never let go of. Need to control it. But no, I just love it, and that's the mischief of Puck, you know. The mischief of Puck. And the final speech. If we shadows have offended, think but this and all is mended, that you have but slumbered here, while these visions did appear. And this weak and idle theme no more yielding, but a dream. Gentles, do not reprehend. If you pardon, we will mend. And as I am an honest Puck, if we have unlearned luck not escape the serpent's tongue, we will make amends ere long, else the Puck a liar call. So, good night unto you all. Give me your hands, if we be friends, and Robin shall restore amends. Blackout. That's the end of the play.
I want to thank you for your vision. I was there since 1989 with a 2-year-old, 2 4-year-olds, friends and family, 2 6-year-olds. And I happened to be there for a matinee, and we really inspired my children. I think we went to 3 matinees, and then we took Dad to an evening performance. But it was wonderful. It was such a wonderful experience in Midsummer Night's Dream, and I'm glad we keep changing it and making it relevant to young people. And I'm one of the older ones who haven't been in a while with mobility issues, but I hope to come back. It was a wonderful memory of raising my children. You introduced Shakespeare to them, and they're all in the arts. My children are all in the arts, musicians, but still, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Closed tent. I'm glad you opened it up, because the 2-year-old fell asleep every time that he was
I know.
Thank you.
Oh, that's very sweet of you. Thank you. By the way, do come back. There's special parking. There's all kinds of. You tell them at the box office you can sit at the front, and we look after thousands of people who have those sort of challenges. Anyway, good.
Thank you. We were blessed to have you at this property.
Oh, isn't it?
Your vision, your ideas.
Well, thank you. That means the world to me.
You spoke of streaming the production.
Streaming.
And how that was not the same. And your story strikes me as a particular instance in which streaming does not work. What about live performance and being there every night with a new audience or a repeat audience? What is it about that that's so special?
Well, live performance is, as an actor, if you're in the play, you arrive at the theatre, and the old phrase is, the smell of the grease paint, the roar of the crowd. I don't think actors wear much makeup anymore, which I find daft. Anyway, that's their business, I guess. But it inspires you when, especially at Bard, because we're just such a, I'm going to hold on to a bit of wood, successful company. We've really built, we have well over 2 million people have come now over these 34 years. And that's a lot of people. But when you arrive at the theatre and warm up on stage, no one in the theatre, it's a sort of sacred place, a bit like here, on that stage. And then you're asked to leave the stage, you go backstage, you go change your clothes and makeup, wigs, whatever. And then, because we got the volume on of what's going on inside the theatre, you hear the crowd assembling, and suddenly you can, there's a roar of voices, 700 people out there. It lifts you, lifts you, lifts you. And if you're not feeling yourself, or a bit down, or you've got a bit of a cold, or whatever it is, tummy ache, this lifts you. And you know that those people that you're about to go out to have never seen this play before. Hi, Tom. Have never seen this play before, and you're going to tell them the story. And that's the secret. That's the secret. And you as teachers here, it's just that those people in there now, they don't know the story. They don't know what you're going to tell them. In the theatre, of course, we're trying to entertain you. But I have to tell you the story and excite and inspire you. When I feel you bite, when I feel you engage, I can feel the emotion, gaiety, laughter, tears, whatever it is. It's exciting and it pushes you onwards. And when you get tired of that, then you need to do something else. Yeah.
Like direct?
Oh, well, yeah, it's really hard. It's a good point. For instance, if you were an actor at Bard, you'll start rehearsing early April, the plays go on June the 7th, 8th, something like that, and you're going to play now to the end of September. So you're going to do these plays 8 times a week for all those weeks, and you've got to be up for it. You've got to be up for it. And it's very hard to tell the same story 80 or 90 times. It's a special sort of discipline, and you've got to be up for it. You can't sort of not show up or just be off that day. Yes, you can be off, but nobody must know it. You've got to act and drive through. But that's what most of us do in life anyway. I've got something wonderful I wanted to read to you. When I was younger, I was a fan of George Bernard Shaw. George Bernard Shaw was an Anglo-Irishman and wrote extraordinary plays in the last century, early in the last century. Shaw said this, and it's something to hold on to. This is the true joy in life, the being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one, the being thoroughly worn out before you're thrown on the scrap heap, the being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the community, and as long as I live, it's my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. For the harder I work, the more I live. Life is no brief candle to me. It's a sort of splendid torch which I've got hold of for a moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. That's George Bernard Shaw. Isn't that marvelous? You know, the thought of investing in your life everything you can. And life comes and goes, but it's never a straight line. And when you're young, it's confusing and challenging and difficult. It's exciting. What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to get on? How am I going to be like him or her, other people that you admire? But just get on with it, engage, dive in, be part of it, and gradually great things will happen. That's what I did. I was an adventurer, really. Why did I come to Canada? I think it was pure adventure. I'm an Englishman. I'm born in England, educated in England. 10 years boarding school from 1960 to 70. Had a passion to go to theatre school. I wasn't good in school. Had a passion to go to theatre school and become an actor, so I did. 3 years there, and I was hired out of that to be in an acting company in the north of England. And I came to Canada. Came on a ship. My mentor said, "Go to Canada. It's time you left this theatre company." I said, "Well, I've just got an audition at the Royal Shakespeare Company." He said, "To hell with them." He said, "Go to Canada. You can do things there. It's a vast country with so much going on." And he said, "I'll give you a hand." He wrote, in those days, you don't know about these things, they were called airmail letters, blue paper. Anyway, he wrote 6 of them to people who ran industry, the theatre and TV industry in Canada. And so I was able to take these with me. Now that was all fine, and you'll find that in your lives too. Somebody will be able to write a letter for you. What do you do with it? Well, you give it to the person who it's written to, or you think might help you get a job, but then you have to get the job. Anyway, I littered these about at the right moment, and I managed to get the jobs, and somehow it all worked out. As they say in Shakespeare in Love, which is a marvelous film if you haven't seen it, how will it work out in the end? The other character says, "I don't know. It's a mystery. The mystery of life." And you're embarking on it, and never stop. Never doubt yourself. Things will go sideways, backwards, forwards, sad things will happen, bad things will happen, grief will happen, a little craziness perhaps too, but nevertheless, keep right on, and you'll be okay.
Well, I think we can all see why you are a community champion, and also why you are such a remarkable actor and director. You really stole the stage and made it your own, but also made us feel part of this wonderful play that you've created for us. Thank you so much for this gift. Thank you, Judith, for convening this conversation. And I think we have a gift for you. It's not money.
Oh my God. Something much more useful.
But as we wrap up, could I ask you all to thank our amazing guests?